Hello, everyone. I just got back from the gym, got a good pump in, the endorphins are going, and I had some stuff on my mind that I thought I would explain to everyone, kind of my approach to my own training, my own weight loss, and sort of how I plan everything for the folks I coach. So I'm a big tracker, meaning I love to track my calories, my weigh-ins, my macros every single day because I feel like it gives me the most control over my diet and it allows me more flexibility, believe it or not. I think there's a misconception about tracking where most folks feel like, oh, it's so too oppressive. You know, you have to log every single thing. You have to weigh yourself every single day. And while, yes, it can get obsessive if you take it to the extreme, but done right, it actually gives you a level of freedom during your diet that really no other method that I found really provides. So just to give you an explanation of this tracking, it's tracking your weigh-ins and your calories either through an app like MyFitnessPal, any sort of calorie tracking app. At least 4 days a week, bare minimum, but ideally you would do it every single day. And what you would do is you would log your calories, log your weigh-ins every single day in a Excel spreadsheet, and then you would take sort of this rolling 7-day average. And what that's going to do is going to take your average weigh-ins each week, your average weight each week, and your average calories each week. And that is going to give you a better apples to apples comparison of whether or not you're actually gaining, losing, or maintaining your weight. Because the problem with weighing in sporadically is that your body weight fluctuates day to day based off a whole bunch of factors besides how much fat you have, you know? So for example, if you did not sleep well the other night, if you're stressed out, if you ate a big meal right before weighing yourself, you could weigh in lower or higher than you actually are just based off things like there's still food in your system, you haven't gone to the restroom, or you're retaining water. It has nothing to do with your actual body fat. So what happens when you weigh yourself every single day is that it controls for these variables and it smooths it out to give you a more accurate picture than if you just had weighed yourself like once a week or once every couple of weeks. So, and tracking calories is important almost every day, or at least 4 times a day to get a decent average, is so you can associate with any given change or lack of change in your weight gain with that caloric intake. So for example, say you're eating 2,000 calories a day and losing a pound a week, right? On average, right? We're taking the average here. You can say, oh, okay, so if I stopped my diet right now, I would just eat 2,500 calories. That would put me right at maintenance. I know exactly where maintenance is, and I am perfectly on track. And that is very important, especially because the dieting part is hard enough, but especially if you're someone who, like myself, who's gone from very overweight to losing a lot of weight, maintenance is very hard. In theory, it's very easy, but finding maintenance is very hard because it's sort of this moving target that goes down as you lose weight. It fluctuates a little bit. But if you accurately track, you can say, okay, well, I ended my diet with losing X amount of weight each week. And, kind of doing the math, you can figure out, oh, well, this is going to correlate to, 2,500, 2,600 maintenance. And I can work back to that whether right away or if I'm doing something like a reverse diet where you slowly work back up to maintenance. And it can work on the other side of the spectrum as well for bulking. I know I'm guilty of this, of doing a dreamer bulk where you think, or it doesn't even start off as a dreamer bulk, but you start your bulk and you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be like super lean or whatever, like half pound a week, and then you end up gaining like a pound and a half a week. And next thing you know, by the end of 3-4 months, you're up like 20 pounds when you meant to gain 8, But if you track carefully, and this is actually takes a little more discipline in my experience than doing it for the diet, because, there's more of a temptation to overeat when you bulk because, right, you're bulking. So it's like, who cares? But when you track, you can be absolutely sure, okay, so I am actually overdoing it with the calories. Like say 3,500 is actually gaining me 2 pounds a week instead of a pound a week, which was my goal. So I'm going to cut down to the 3,000 calories, something like that. So counting your calories, averaging your weigh-ins every day gives you more control over your diet. And once you know these numbers too, once you can establish them, this is where the flexibility comes in with your diet. Because if you know for not 100% certain, but within like a like a 10% give or take range, whatever, that your maintenance calories are like 2,500, or like your cutting calories are 2,000, 2,300. You don't have to be like, oh, sorry, I'm at this party, I can't have this cupcake because I'm dieting. Like if you're not tracking anything, you're like, oh, I don't know, like that could throw my diet off, or it could be fine. But if you're tracking, you could go, oh, okay, this muffin has like 350 calories from the nutrition label. Yeah, it's fine. I feel fine. I'm just gonna have the muffin and have a bit of a leaner dinner, and I'm still on track. So it gives you this flexibility that you otherwise wouldn't have. And it's funny because most people think of this as sort of an advanced tactic, but in actuality, it's perfect for beginners. And I would actually recommend it for beginners, at least for the first 1 to 2 months of weight training, especially if your goal is weight loss. Because it's been my experience, I've coached clients either way. If they want to track, that's fine. If they don't, then we work around that. But in my experience, those that track and the ones that track more granularly are the ones that make the most progress. Because if you're new to dieting and new to nutrition in general, you're like, even with good heuristics, it's going to be hard to really establish or judge for yourself what portion sizes actually look like. Because if you like the classic peanut butter example, or like a peanut example, where it's like you take a handful and you're like, oh, this is probably a serving size, but you took like a heaping handful of peanuts, and it's like, no, that's not 150 calories, that's 300 calories. And next thing you do enough of those mistakes, and suddenly you're maintaining your weight, or you're even gaining weight. So when you're new to nutrition, the more tracking, the better. That doesn't mean you have to do it permanently, but I would at least do it for a month, maybe 2 months, just to establish that baseline that you can then, okay, I've established a baseline. I know what portion sizes look like. I know what eating in a calorie deficit looks like and feels like. Now I can sort of back off with being so granular and just go based off like feel and heuristics, like serving size heuristics and things like that. And it's like I said, it's been my experience that the clients that do use this more granular approach see more success over time. And me being from a finance background as well, I'm very much analytical in the way I view things. So it's just nice to see everything else all filled out on the spreadsheet, and exactly like, okay, I know I'm on plan, because I'm looking at my weekly summary, I'm looking at my loss from the week before. Everything is perfectly on track. It's perfect for planning. And if you haven't already, I would definitely suggest you give it a try. All you do, like I said, you get an Excel spreadsheet, log your daily weigh-in, usually first thing in the morning, after you use the restroom, before you eat anything, before you drink anything. Standardize your weigh-ins, log them, download a calorie tracking app such as MyFitnessPal, log your foods. I would recommend buying a food scale. Only $20. You can buy it at like Target, Walmart, Amazon. It's very inexpensive. Log your food, put in your calories, put in your macros. Every single day. It takes 5 minutes. It's really convenient. The barrier to entry to doing this kind of tracking is super low. And then all you do is take the average of that and then look at your average weight from last week compared to this week. And then you can see whether or not you're on track, if you're, whether your goal is losing weight, maintaining, or bulking. I do this for my clients automatically. So all they do is just send me their daily calories, send me their weigh-ins, and I do all that stuff on Excel for them. But if you want to do it yourself on Excel, it's super easy to set up. Let me know if you want me to film an actual setup video on how to do this in Excel. That should be no problem. But let me know what you think about this. Let me know in the comments if you're a more analytical tracker or if you go based more off feel, because at the end of the day, there's no wrong answer. I'm just speaking based off personal experience and the experience of those who I coached. So let me know below, and see ya.